Hello everybody, welcome to Decoding Scientific Research. So in today's video, I will introduce you how to use Origin software to plot XRD graph. Origin is a plotting software where you can use it for plotting various datas, which includes IR, UV, or any other forms of datas like a trend in which you see or a relationship datas. So now we will see how to plot an XRD data. XRD data is a relationship data between two theta values and then the intensity of the reflection. So I'm not going into details of what is XRD and how this is formed. When you open the Origin software, this is the opening page. For the most Origin softwares will have the same format. If you have a different version or if you have an different customized things, then it will differ. Most Origin software. So you will be, if there is nothing, suppose if you have an blank sheet, which means like this, then you have to go to here, which is called as new workbook, and then click here. So you will get a workbook which is similar to that of an Excel. So now we have to import data into this Excel. So there are two ways. One is to go to files and then import, and then it is called a single ASCII or multiple ASCII. So since I'm going to plot one graph now, I will give single ASCII. So it'll go to it'll pop up a window where I have to select it. So this is my data, so which is in the form of an ASCII, or it can be also a text file. So if you do not find your files, you can just go to click all files so that you will find your file format. It can either be text file, or it can be dot file, or it can be all files. So this Origin can read text files, ASCII files, as well as Excel files. So you give open, pops up, it opens the reading. So usually you get only two columns, A and B, which is X and Y. The second is the data which I have, so I'm going to delete it now. So this is unusual data we have. So in this, the X column represents the 2 theta value, and then the Y is the intensity. So as usual, I'm going to select it, this, just click on the left click, go here, when you get an arrow, click on the left click, press Control, and then put on one more. So you're getting selected, I think. Then you go here where you have the rightmost corner, go to this, select line graph, you get a graph. Suppose in some cases the whole graph will not be visible. For example, if you have done some previous scale where you do not, your scale was not perfect, so then your graph may look like this, but this is not your whole graph. So whenever you plot, automatically what you do, go to a option called as graph and then rescale, or you can simply press Ctrl R. So when you press rescale to show all, the graph will automatically rescale and show the complete data. Sometimes the default setting goes back that you just see the part of data which previously we saw only this part, so it will go to this. So this is the first step. Second step is to see if the scales are right. You put on this, and then when we see here, our scale starts from +5 to 80. I'm going to put one 5. So and then increment is 10. If you do not want your increment to be 10, or if you want your increment to be 5, maybe when I apply, you could see it down. You see it is down. So it depends on in which increment you want it. And then if you need the 60 and this is 65, so it is minor ticks are run at 1. If you want multiple minor ticks, for example 2, then if you click and you get difference. It depends on the customization how it usually you want it. So that now I have given increment as 10 and minor ticks as 1, and then I'm going to click OK. Or and then here in the intensity, similarly I'm going to adjust the scale. So intensity starts from 0 and then it goes to 8000. So since you see the baseline is not so much clearly corrected, we get an intensity difference. So I just give a little of down, which is -20. Let's see how does it go. There is no change. So I give 50. So now we could see the complete baseline. Now I'm going to give okay. Now the scales have been set. So usually I like the graph to have a square box so that the graph is completely, so the graph has a boundary. So to do this, what we have to do is go to tick labels, sorry, go to title and formats. So when you can click here only, go to title and formats, and then you see left we have shown access, but on top we have not shown access. So I'm going to click show access. It is out. So you will have an, if I apply, the tick marks are out. So I'm going to remove it to be none, and this is also to be none. When I apply, it becomes like a border. Then I'm going to click on right, and this is none, none. And the black color, if you want to change the color, you can change, or if you want to add some title, you can add. Then click apply. So we have got a now we have got a square box. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a title for each of this. So A is, which is bottom. So you can give a title, or you can also go and give it in the workbook which we have. So I'm going to give it here. It is called as 2 theta. We cannot include symbols here, so I'm not currently doing it. Tell this to this workbook. In this it says units, name, units and comments. So this units, for example, if I give 2 theta and then the units is degree, what will happen is in graph it would change to, so in previously I was not able to give theta value here because I was not able to insert symbol. So since it is a special case where we have a 2 theta and then a degree symbol, which is not usually the case of plotting softwares, but in especially for powder XRD, we need to insert a symbol in below. So I have typed. So what I did was, the previously there was a symbol here, so I'm going to copy this and always insert a text box. So I have a text box here. I'm going to press 2, and then to insert a symbol, the shortcut key is Control plus M. So when you put Control plus M, or you go here, click a right click, you have a symbol map. Go to the text box, double click it. The moment the cursor blinks, come to the point where you need to have, and then click on the right click, you will get a symbol map, which is shortcut is Control M. When you click on Control M, you search for theta and then insert it. The theta is here. I'm going to insert it now, but the unit is within brackets. I'm going to put bracket. Again, I'm going to use right click, map symbols, then insert degree, which is this. This now in close. So now x-axis is done. Similarly, this is intensity. So select all, remove it, intensity. So the unit, it doesn't have any unit, so I'm going to call it as arbitrary units. So usually in most graphs, we used to have units. Suppose if you do not have an unit, just give it as an arbitrary unit so that they know that you have not missed the units and they don't confuse it with the other SI units. So now next comes this one. So this is a which indicates your data. So let's say like this data belongs to something called as iron Fe2. So this is an iron oxide graph. And in this also what you can do, you can write it. Suppose if you want this to be in the superscript, that is the exact formula we have it. Put it down. It becomes a superscript and subscript. You can make it. Wanted to go up, you can also like this. So it goes to a superscript, or you can put it on a subscript. And then if you do not like to, like personally, I do not like to have a box above this. So I click on this. I get this 6 dots or and then what I do, I right click. When I right click, there is something called as properties. Go to this properties. There is a, so it says like background is black line. I'm going to give a none. Click OK. This becomes transparent. If someone likes to be, they need to have a black line, they can do it. Or even there are other properties that you have to, only when this corners, that green boxes appear, you get to have that option. So if I click here, green box doesn't appear. So when I click here, the green box appear. So I'm going to get a right click and then properties. You can also change it like shadow. You get a shadow here. You can play around it so that you can have whatever formats you like it. Similarly, if you wanted to have a rotated one, you can also have a rotated one. It depends. Going to have a default one, so which is not rotated 0 degree, and then no, comes back to the original position. But I want this to be little of bold in, so I'm going to select this. When I get all these green dots, I'm going to double click it so that it goes to the cursor. I select all the text I want, make it bold, it's saved. And I also want this line to be little bolder. So I'm going to double click on this line, select color if you want, and then I'm going to increase the width to 3. Click apply. So now this line actually corresponds to this line. So if you increase the width of this line, it also increases the width of this line. Now, so now I've just given the outer frame, how to make it, how to keep everything. There is one more thing. Suppose if you want to do, if you want these to also to be in bold, you can just click bold. And if you want to change the font, if you want to decrease it, or if you increase it, you can do it here. Similarly, so personally, I like to have these bold because when you export it, it has a very clear look. Yes. So now I'll go inside how to remove all these noise or how to smoothen it and how to remove up and smoothen it. So when you have to select this graph, you just click here and you could, when you should be able to find dots, or these are called as data points in the graph you have selected. And then you go to analysis, signal processing, analysis, signal processing, smooth. And then do not click this last use so that it will open up what we have used as last thing. Open dialog box. So when I open dialog box, it says no preview. You have to click here, which is called as an auto preview. So the auto preview is this. It says like the red color, the black is the original graph and red is the smooth graph. I do not want to be so much of noisy. I still wanted to smooth it. Here is the points of window where you need to. You can also put an input manually like 20. It is thin line, or you can put it little more 30. When more, the more you smooth, the more small peaks would disappear. So you should keep in mind that in the name of making the graph good, you cannot lose the data. For example, when I click 30, if I have clicked 30, you see the original graph, this peak has got a higher intensity and this peak has got lower intensity. And when I smoothen it to 20, you see there is a difference. Now the highest intensity peak has been changed into not the highest intensity peak, it is the second highest intensity peak. So which means you can misinterpret the data or you can read the data wrongly. So when you smooth, you should also keep this in mind that your data should not be misleading or changing. You should also do accordingly. Or if I actually I have if I have smoothed it imperfectly, where I could see that the original graph is higher and the smooth ones are not in the matching the results. So what you do, you double click on this, you get two windows. The first data corresponds to, or so these two data. So the first data corresponds to black one, which you could see this is black in color. The second data corresponds to red. If you wanted to keep black, you just untick this and press apply so that the original data remains there. But if you do not want the original data but the smoothed data, you click here, it is checked, and then press apply, the smoothed data appears. But in our case, we do not want this smooth because it is in misleading data. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to remove this, remove, apply. Now we have to set right. One dialog box, auto preview. We could see still 7. If you give 7 and then you click on the graph, it goes. So I think this is the maximum limit in which the data is not misinterpreted. For the safer side, I'll give 6. So this is the maximum limit. Then I give OK. So now we have the smooth graph, which also follows the same trend as that of the original graph. I double click this, uncheck my original graph, and I have the smooth one here. Smooth one goes. And if you want to change any color, you can change, apply. So this is the smooth. Now copy this, control, and I'm going to paste it here. Click here, before cursor goes before. Delete it. Come down. Have your mark, and this is. So now our graph is completely ready to export. But if you like to have the peaks indicated, suppose someone would be like, this is an oxygen peak, or this is related to Fe2, this is related to FeO. If you wanted to indicate, or if you wanted to input the values, what you can do, you can go to text box. Let me say like this is, I'm going to write a value of this which is called as 35. I'm going to write 35. Only I have to mark it. I'm going to place the 35 here. Take this arrow. This is how it works. There is no, so you can do it. So similarly, you can add multiple text box anywhere, and then this is around 28, 29. So you can also change the font of this by double clicking it. So any text box font can be double clicked, control all which to select, and then you can change the font, different font, or the font size can be modified accordingly. And it works as a, when you wanted to undo it, you can just click Control Z, it will undo. So now we have, I'm going to recheck it. This side it is 20, this side it is 18. So I'm going to increase this, both has to be uniform to look symmetry. And this side it is 22, and here it is also 20. Font here is 22. Example, so 22. So this has got arrow, this doesn't have arrow. There are two options to copy this data, the graph, into an exported file. So let me open a Word file. So when you open a Word file, there are two ways to put it. One is to copy the page from here and then pasting it. Second is to export it. So it is the user's option to do what they wanted it. But personally, I would recommend you to export it and then put it as a graph so that it becomes an easy way for you. So to copy the page, what you have to do is you have to click on the empty area of the graph and then right click. You have something called as copy page. So I'm going to click on the copy page. So now the whole page of this origin is copied, and then this can be pasted on to a Word document. So I've opened a blank Word document, and I'm going to just paste. There is no special pasting. So in this, you have to resize your graph. So this is the copied page. The page is copied. So the one advantage of this is if you wanted to do any editing in the graph, you can double click this. When you double click on this, it opens in the origin file in the Originsoftware where you can edit the data. For example, like this, it opens up and I can remove the arrow, put 35 nearby, and I think I wanted to color this text. I'm going to keep it here, change the color font to, let's say, red, this into. So this is just to see the options. And then I have to close only this small box. When I close, it says, do you want to delete it or hide it? If cancel, and the changes are saved here in the Word file. And this origin is not saved. But whereas our previous origin file still remains intact. You see there was no changes imparted here, but this has gotten changes imparted. So this is advantage of copying the page and pasting it. The second option is to export the graph, which is like you can either click it, right click, go to export graph, export page, or you can go to files and then export graphs. And then when you are going to export graph, it will just export the graph. When you're going to export the page, it will also take the outer area. So I'm going to file, export graph, open dialog box. So it says this is the active page. So I'm going to take all these active page and where do you want it to save? So let me, or if you can select it by choosing this three dots. So I'm going to click this three dots and I'm going to put it on desktop. Then click OK. The long name is test one. So you can give your name and then come down. If you click auto preview, your preview of the graph will be shown here. So the preview is ready. The large file. And this is the preview of your graph is shown here. And then you can change your resolution. If you increase your resolution, your file size increases. You should keep that in mind. And you can also change the type of format you have. I personally recommend PNG to be there, which is a portable network graphics, so that the file size is small as well as it can be changed. And there are other like you can also have it as an enhanced meta file where you have all the data information available, or JPG, joint photographic export file, so where you have all the pixel data more in this. But I think for us, we'll have the for a research data, or when you take this graph into a presentation, you will have a lot of files already inside it. So you need to have the best quality with the lowest possible image, lowest possible size, that is PNG. According to my personal, you can also choose PNG or JPG or GIF according to your wish. So I choose PNG, and then you can either click apply and OK or just OK. So both will do it. I'm going to give. Now I go to my Word file, insert, insert the picture from this device. And desktop test 1p. So now you could see the quality of the graphs when it is in this and when it is in this. So the quality of image has got a bigger difference when you export and when you wanted to keep it as an edit file. Suppose if you think it is just your first draft and then you wanted to keep editing your file again and again to impart some changes or to improve on the something, then you need to keep it like this, a copy page. Suppose if I don't, you see the intensity of the peak, how beautiful this peak is and how noisy these peaks are. For example, this last peak. So when you export it, it just smoothens the surface, it looks beautified. So this is not. So both has got its own advantage. So this is a final copy of the graph which I wanted to export, and this is not the final copy of the graph. So with this, I think like we have started from the scratch. I have taken I have taken a text file, put it on an origin, and then and this information says that the graph one has been exported to such and such location. And close this. So we have imported it and then smoothed it, and then the graph is ready. You can rename the graph by clicking it, right click and rename. Similarly, you can also rename the double click it, will be able to rename it. So in the next video, I will show how to put multiple XRD graphs on the same picture, on the same graph, so that you will be able to compare the results. So if you have any questions or any topics in which you need any clarification, please put it on the comment box. And thank you again for watching.